Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. All right there. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. How are you? Hope you're healthy. Hope you're feeling well and safe. We will continue with the MulaMadhyamakaKarika. I did want to briefly say, I got up this morning to a very profound question by one of you, well articulated. It put me deep into thought for a little while. It's the nature of conversation, isn't it? That while we listen to a friend explain their experience of something, whether they want to just hear themselves talk about it or get your input of it, which I believe, of course, that's what was being requested, that on the one hand, we want to jump in and try to answer it before they're done explaining it, right? We all do that. And on the other hand, the very thought of how we might answer part of a question as we continue to listen to the rest of the question starts to be modified. We realize that we're answering our own versions of the question as the interlocutor continues. And this is the benefit of emails, of course, is that you can't interrupt them. And so the email reminded me of several things as I read through it. How I might answer the first part right away without listening to all of it or reading all of it. How that's a nature that we have to try to patch things up as we go without conceiving of the whole picture. So he made me aware of my own natures, or she. I don't want to. Anyway. Ultimately, I chanted about it for a bit, and the response was far more considered, because I did read through the entire question. And it made me consider the nature of the question, the nature of how it might be approached, how it might be an opportunity for both of us to learn, relearn, reteach, reinvestigate things that perhaps we hadn't given appropriate time to gel, or that our condition today is different than it was at the moment when we learned certain things, and now we can learn them from a different perspective, a different way. This is our challenge in Samsara, isn't it? And actually, the response became such an insight into our study that I had to publish it. It doesn't have names in it, but threefoldlotus.com/home/home.htm That's the page on the website that has the core study materials with all the green buttons of different subject. Well, it's up near the top. That's where I've been adding things lately. On the subject of dukkha. You've heard me talk a lot lately about anxiety and stress, the samsaric condition. But understanding that that is the quintessential fundamental energies of combination and amalgams, karma, that precipitates this existence, it would make sense that anxiety and stress is our natural state. We don't think of it that way. We think of it as something to be cut off. And that, I think, there's a lot of misinformation about that in Buddhism out in the world. Entire sects that don't understand that and turn nihilistic. We want to end our suffering. We want to end our anxiety and stress. But that's not Buddhism. Buddhism does not deny the existence of anything. Rather, Buddhism gets very analytical and tries to get you to understand that it doesn't exist in the first place. But not because we're trying to annihilate it or prove that it's all a grand illusion and we're all imagining it. No. The whole point of our practice is to dislodge our experience of this life from that which opportunistically gives us the opportunity to experience it. This is hard to put into words. It's no wonder there's a lot of misinformation out there. But I'll go back to my recent video on the 9 consciousnesses, Myoho Renge Kyo, 10 worlds, the whole package. It's I put the link in the document in case you need it. That 9th consciousness, that Buddha mind that we're all capturing, we do it. We do it when we chant without thinking about cars and boyfriends and girlfriends and makeup and everything else. When we actually sit in front of our mandala and chant Myoho Renge Kyo, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, with a single-mindedly directed focus to experience the joy of our Buddha mind, because it's already there. We just want to experience it. We do it instantly. As soon as we get our mind focused, we're doing it. We're in Buddha mind. We recite Gangyo, we chant. Why do we do that? We do that so that we can experience that detachment. Not annihilation. You know, our words say, well, the world falls away and I'm completely focused in this wonderful place, in the mandala, in the gohanzon, in the experience of my Buddha. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, and the world goes away. Well, no, it doesn't go away. It's all there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting in front of a piece of paper, reciting, saying words, hearing sounds. Right, that's the world. You're just experiencing it anew, completely detached from it, but not denying it. Right? Right? Think. You are in the world, chanting Daimoku, breathing its air, it's real. You're not denying it. You're simply seeing it from a different place. It's kind of like walking through a dark house you've never been before, stubbing your shin on a low table, and cussing the chair that got in your way, and totally dark. And then someone goes, click, turns on the light, and you go, oh, oh. Well, you're still in the house. But suddenly everything is new, fresh, kind of exciting, right? Now, the trick is, how much daimoku does it take for me to be able to stop chanting, focusing on mandala, opening my gohonzon to Buddha mind, and leaving that window open as I walk into life? Some of you have done it for a minute, 10 minutes. Maybe you've been lucky enough to stay in that kind of buoyant place to some percentage at least for an entire day. What a glorious day that is. It's not that it takes a long time to get there. It's that to the degree it takes a long time to achieve that kind of maintenance of the Buddha mind is to the degree of how stubbornly we are hanging on to this, making it permanent, just letting it flow, observing it, being in it. It takes effort, no doubt about it. It's no wonder it took Shakyamuni so many years to try to get people up to a level of understanding that they could actually get what he was trying to explain to them with words. Because the words ain't it. But this letter, this email, it made me consider this all over again from a little different perspective, and it was helpful. It was helpful to me. Thank you. But it was helpful to the point where I thought it created a new kind of an insight. So that's why I posted it on threefoldlotus.com. Dukkha, stress and anxiety, first noble truth. Keep coming back to those basics. It sounds so simple. And then we have Nagarjuna, where simplicity just, it's exhaustive. But there's benefit to it. The product consists of the conditions, but the conditions do not consist of themselves. We think in samsara as things being produced. But the idea, do you see what he's navigating here? The idea, logically with words, you can say conditions exist, and so thingifying exists as the product of conditions and tendencies, but just conditions he's talking about here, right? A wave exists because of the conditions of the water, the weather, the wind, the blah, 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 blah. But the wind, the water, all those things are also conditioned environments, produced. But production is a samsaric term because it explicitly requires a thing that is produced. And there lies the problem. This is what Nagarjuna is digging at, scratching at. How can that which is the product of things that do not consist of themselves consist of conditions? How can something be a thing without coming from the thing itself? How does the thing appear? Well, conditions. But the conditions aren't things. And the thing has conditions. So where did those conditions come from? Was the thing in the conditions? Or did the conditions magically spawn this thing? Where's this magic happening? In the samsaric mind. If a condition exists for something to happen, the mind of samsara will make it happen and will hang on to it, make it permanent, and thusly plant the flag of thing. I've thingified it. That's what we do. That's what this condition is in the universe. The universe itself is that condition. First noble truth. All this busyness about creating things is dukkha, is anxiety, stress. So he's driving at the very heart of when Shakyamuni says everything's impermanent, everything's always in flux, everything's just momentary thingifying. So let it be, but don't invest your experience in that process. Don't get sucked into it. Just look at it. By doing that, your life then becomes something of a wonderful experience because it's detached from the constant thingifying and permanent making and denial of impermanence that is the real truth of the process of life, the much more profound truth is that this illusion of time that we have is just that. So as long as you're here, picture it rather than being the picture. It's an alternate point of view. And it's been here all along. So it's not like you're having to create it. You're just having to adopt it. So, of course, they go into the question, is the product or effect, while distinct from the cause and conditions, arises from them in that it consists in them or is composed of them. Okay, word salad. I mean, more power to you if you can read this and get it. There are those amongst us who are very analytical, and this kind of reading through and torturous thinking, I've been there, brings us our insights. Cool, do that. Read the book. But I'm not going to just sit here and be audible. That's not my mission, right? 14. Therefore, neither a product consisting of conditions nor one consisting of non-conditions, whatever that is, exists. If the product does not exist, how can there be a condition or non-condition? So there he's coming back around to exactly what I was saying. If the thing isn't produced of a thing or other things, then is the thing produced? Or does the thing simply appear as a condition of our perception and not in and of itself? Because it can't. There is no component under a microscope or anywhere in the universe that is chairness. The chair exists because we make it so. How many hands, how many minds, how many eyes, how many listening to saws and scraping and sanding and shellacking went into the effort to make this thing we call chair is actually the result of thousands of things. The tools, the labor, the attention, the design. It's all those things all at once. But we're lazy in samsara. We rest on thingifying. So once it's a chair, we go, chair. I bought it. Or it just appeared. Somebody else must have put it there. We're so glued to the mechanics of life. And we think when we sit in the chair, I'm experiencing the chair. Not really, but okay, enjoy it. Enjoy sitting in a chair. Which is more toward the truth of things, is that you're sitting. The chair is incidental. Could be a rock, a box. You could be sitting on your heels. But see how we invest our very identity in everything? That's what Buddha is trying to break, that connection. Not get rid of it. Enjoy the chair. But enjoy it with a mind that says, isn't this fascinating? This whole idea of a chair. It's wonderful. Relax. Now you can be anxious about the chair breaking. Yeah, it's funny. We don't get rid of the anxiety and the stress. We just put it in its proper place. We're not completely involved and obsessing and permanenting the anxiety. We're letting it do what it does. How can I be so relaxed about anxiety and stress? Yeah, it just makes you laugh. You'd be surprised how often in life situations a little laughter breaks down those attachments. There's entire groups who practice nothing but laughing. It shakes us loose. It breaks our bonds to the anxiety and the stress. Try that. Try that next time your son or daughter or mother or father pisses you off. And I say, family, because they're the greatest spark makers. But it can happen out next time you're on a freeway and that guy cuts you off, because it's going to happen. And once you stabilize the situation, because it occurs to me that if you bust out laughing as soon as he cuts in front of you, you might forget to brake and not run into him. I know that's not funny, but I'm just pointing out how the mind works, right? Once you're safe and secure, reasonably so, as freeways aren't necessarily safe conditions to be in, and you feel that anger just coming up your throat, just as it wants to manifest into select words, just let it come out as laughter. Try that. You'll be surprised. And that will point you toward, oh yeah, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I love this practice. Second chapter, an analysis of the traversed and not yet traversed and the presently being traversed. You see how we're dissecting the moments of perception in the mind. Buddhism is about the mind. But I always have to add that mind and how we experience things has an attitude and it has a projection, an intent. And those are the two things that when we chant, we recite, we sing the Buddha's teachings, we sing our Buddhahood into life. Those are the things, the overarching colorations of experience that we use to experience without the attachment, the anxiety, the stress. It's still there, but we let it be there. We don't join in with it. Samsara is an amazing opportunity to experience our Buddha mind. Without samsara, there's no experience. There's no mind. So hurry up. You only have this life to do it in. The topic of this chapter is motion. How often do you hear me talk about momentum, inertia? And they're saying this is an analysis of traversed, not yet traversed, and the presently being traversed. Talking about the mind. 2:1. Okay, so he's going to break it down into its component parts. Assertion. There is no going in any of the three times. We're going to mess around with time again. Space, time. Opponent. There is going in the present time. We are moving. Refutation of going occurring in the presence. No. At this moment, there is no movement. You perceive movement because you see point. Life, death, life, death, life, death. You're making a line. But the line is poof, points one after another. So there's no movement. There's a perception of movement as you go from point to point to point. But in this moment, in this point, there is no going. You just are. And this is a critical understanding. It goes to the point, you like what I did there, of thingifying. It's the very opposite of thingifying. Because when you thingify the chair, you are saying the chair exists. Pre-traverse, traversing, and will traverse, that chair always there. Permanentizing. You are giving that chair more points than it is experiencing right now. Yes, I said the chair is experiencing. Because it is a moment-to-moment manifestation of many conditions, energies, tendencies that brought it about in your samsaric life. I'm not trying to be magical here. I'm trying to get you to understand the sense of mind that is being dissected here by Nagarjuna. The chair is going to be there. By what leap of logic do you say that? This building could be hit by an explosive in the next second, to which you would be very hard-pressed to find chair. That chair is there. It's always there. It will be there for as long as I decide it'll be there, or somebody doesn't move it, or the explosion. How much we modify our, but the argument's always in our head, our samsaric mind. It's there. Well, there was chair. The chair was always there. I know it's not there now, but I know that chair. It's in here somewhere. All of that is this absolute obsession with keeping things permanent. You could say, going back to the monkey analogy, that everything we produce is a new monkey yelling out its own name. Chair, 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 chair. That's an interesting analogy. If you think of it Nagarjuna's way, is that the chair is only there when the monkey yells chair. And the monkey is saying chair, 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 chair. What does that sound like? Moment, 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 moment. Point, 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 point. He's making a line. Shut up, chair monkey. Whoop, where'd the chair go? Do you see the analyzing consciousness, how we think about consciousness? Those 8 consciousnesses are all doing that. We only have the one Buddha mind, consciousness, that can rise above the din of the monkeys and sure, listen to the monkeys going chair, 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 and be entertained by it, instead of attaching ourselves to the anxiety of the monkey, the stress of what it's trying to do, continuously be, and be unperturbed by it. Just enjoy it for what it is. And if it suddenly goes away, oh, monkey, shut up. I'm not traumatized by the disappearance of the chair, because it's a moment-to-moment thing anyway. Oh, right now there's no chair. It's hard to put this into words, isn't it? Assertion: there is no entity that goes. Reason for thesis: a goer does not go. It simply isn't. See, the traversing is the samsara. Whether it is or isn't a problem. A goer cannot commence motion in the 3 times. Reason for this assertion: there is no entity that stops moving. Reason for the thesis: a goer does not stop, because it's not going. There is no act of going, nor the commencing or ceasing of going. A goer is neither identical with nor distinct from the act of going. Refutation of the thesis that a goer is characterized by the property of going. No entity, whether a goer, a non-goer, or a goer non-goer, goes in any of the 3 locations. Ultimate conclusion: there is no going, no goer, and no destination. See, I think there's a great benefit in just simply going through it. I think that's where our aha, I think I get what he's saying now, occurs. Reading all of this description may also be a way to do that, and that's great, but that's not what I'm going to do in these videos. So the first step is, just as the path traversed is not being traversed, neither is the path not yet traversed being traversed. The path presently being traversed is distinct from the portions of the path traversed, and not yet traversed is not being traversed. So one of the authors begins, if motion is possible, then it should be possible to say where the activity of going is taking place. It is not taking place in that portion of the path already traversed, since the activity of going has already occurred there. Nor is it taking place in the portion not yet traversed, since such an activity lies in the future. And there's no third place, the presently being traversed, where it could take place. Right? So this is, again, goes to my analogy of the line. The line isn't occurring in the point. The next point is not the line either. Nor is the last point the beginning of the line, just as this point isn't the beginning of the line, nor is the next point the ending of the line. They are simply points. And we perceptively construct a line. That's our attachment. We want this point to be also extant in that point. But the very language of that falls apart. We can't make this point that point, because by making this point that point is no longer that point. It's another point. This over and over and over and over again. The mental perception of Buddhism is this momentary, point-to-point experience. In our samsaric mind, our 8 consciousnesses with our sight, our hearing, our tongue, our feeling, our voice, our bodies, our me. See, how can there be a me or an I? Because the me of now is not the me of now. This is another me. As I'm saying me, all that time has been innumerable points of me-ness. And all Buddha is asking you to do is say, Buddha-ness, looking upon the me-ness as this process that has an arising, an endurance, a decay, and a dissolution. It's just this process. Become the unglued observer, appreciative, amazed, awestruck, and as a bodhisattva, because you are in the meanness, share this perspective with others. Will help you to see the meanness. Detach from it while using it, and then afford yourself the view of the interaction of it, moment to moment, changing constantly, non-static, because of this time-space. But there is a point at which there is no time-space. And we will return to that point. And it won't be we. It won't be you and me. There will be no me-ness. There will be no time for me to exist. Existence, that word needs to be redefined as this illusory line, which is simply a mental connection of locations, points, in a trajectory. Let's go a little further. The opponent, so the flip-flop on this is, where there is movement, there is the act of going. And since movement occurs in the path presently being traversed, not in the traversed nor the not yet traversed, the act of going occurs in the path presently being traversed. So the opponent is trying to say that at this point, the next point is manifest because of this point. And this point, I'm traveling through this location to the next point. But that's missing. How many points are there between this point and that point? In the point, in the being of the point, there is no motion. There is only the point. Now, the inertia of the entirety of the countless myriad points may precipitate, the word I always use, the next point. But the point isn't itself moving. There is no going, coming in the point. The trajectory of the karma is instantiating yet another point. But that's not a solid experiencing. See, traversing means that there is a step between points. And so that indicates permanence. That indicates a hanging on to this point until we can establish it in the next point. There's energy instantiating point after point, and precipitating from all that energy, points are manifested. And they arise, and they endure, and they decay, and they dissolute. If there was such a thing as something between this point and that point, then that would allow for permanence of that point. Like we think chair will always be chair. Even the chair will of its own existence decay. So there cannot be permanence point to point. There is not going of this point to the next point. What there is manifestation of energies over and over and over again that are constantly changing. See, traversing in this description of going is like packing up everything and moving it. And that's not what's happening. That's the problem of thingifying. There is no thing in this point. There is only a spark of existence followed by another spark of existence. There's no moving van. Response: how will it hold that the act of going is in the path being traversed, when it does not hold that there is a presently being traversed without the act of going? So this is like saying, how can I say this? If I could animate this, our experience of life would be like every particle we're made of being constantly rebuilt from the floor up, say, or materializing like on Star Trek. Whoop, I'm in this moment. I'm going, and now I'm in this moment. Now that might be an interesting visualization, but it requires that all of those particle points of light and everything, again, are a package of you. But we know that's not right. You-ness, me-ness, is a constructed perception of mind. And we are completely instantiated, whole, moment to moment. Because the package of energy that instantiates as this mind right now, with these eyes, this color, all of these consciousnesses, is a momentary instantiation, like the firing of an engine. Pow, 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 birth, death, 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 birth, death. I'm not sure. I don't think I can do that. It's too fast. I can't perceive it. But with my earthly, lunk-headed perception, I can make it something. Me then becomes something that's happening, not something that is. I am happening. You are happening. But that is a samsaric explanation for what we're experiencing. If we can elevate our mind's position unattached, then we can look at the fabulous instantiations of I's and me's and you's and them and that other. Look at all these instantiations, moment to moment, of all of these laser beams of energy manifesting, sparking all over the place. Look, they make patterns. Because what are we fundamentally? It's been a long time since I've said this, but we're pattern makers. What is a pattern? A pattern is a way of connecting dots. We make patterns. That's what we do. And one of those patterns is me, is you, is her, is him, is this computer. They're patterns. And we get fancy about patterns. And we take all of our things and we arrange them in thing rows and things actions and things. And we take those things and we see patterns in those things. We just pattern. But the reality of life is that all of those wonderful dancing patterns are entirely subject to vicissitudes, preferences, demise. They're temporary things. They don't exist with permanence. They do exist with moment-to-moment instantiations. It's a way of distancing our mind, our obsessive mind of perception, to start to disassemble our attachment. That's what this exercise is. It's not asking you to take a machete to everything you see so you can define each of its points. Maybe mentally you can do that. But this is a mental exercise for you to disassemble your attachment and release you from it, to correct your perception, to reach for the mind. And to close, I will say that all of this was 2,200 years ago, millennia ago. We don't have to go through this in order to get Buddha's ultimate teaching. But it's interesting. It may even be helpful to know, to give us different tools when we have our doubts. Maybe only, if only to appreciate what people had to go through in order to get their minds to where you and I can get instantly. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. We have information coming at us so fast in this age that it's disassembling itself. Look at this country right now, the world for that matter. It's getting crazy. Chaos is happening everywhere. It's going to continue and get even more incredibly crazy. It's disassembling itself. We're here to witness it. And it's incredibly important that we get this lesson. That the chaos is driven by this obsession to hold on to possess, to make permanent. It's insanity. But there is a mind of experience who can look on to this landscape of samsara and see the beauty in it. That doesn't mean you can, like The Matrix or what are these other shows where your superpower is to stop bullets in midair. That's fantasy. That's thingness. That's not the point. The point is not to get sucked into the whole drama of it, even though it's pervasive all around us. Use your mandala. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. It's not escapist. Religions are escapist because escapism is a denial of what you're in, of what you are. It's a debasement of life in favor of a get me out of here. Well, where are you going to go? I don't know, but it has to be better than here. Well, here's all we've got. See, a Buddhist is very rational. So how do you live that ultimate life that you're looking for somewhere else right here and now? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's how. This life is your opportunity to experience that life. By denying this life in favor of some fantasy, you are creating an inexorable amount of misery on this life. You are making the purpose of this life your misery. Why would you do that? That makes no sense. That's nonsense. This is why I say Buddhism, not a religion. It's not escapist at all. It's a deep, profound realization of the amazing opportunity we have here to live this life maximally, with all our potential, unabated. But even more important than that, the opportunity to do that comes from letting this life be what it is and not investing our energy into maintaining it. Just experience it. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Be careful of your health. Stay as secure as you can. Be kind to yourself and others, especially those who don't understand. Keep chanting. You're already there. You're doing it. It's amazing. Good on you. And thank you to my supporters, all of you really. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.